Compassion.
That strong feeling of sympathy for the suffering of others and a strong desire to help them.
In this week's Faith at Home episode, we are going to make the link between feeling compassion and God's love for the world.
Compassion literally means to share, calm, the suffering passion of others.
As we come to know God more and more, we begin to see the world as God sees the world.
And when we see the world through God's eyes, we can feel God's heart breaking for the suffering that's in it, and the strong desire in us to help grows.
Compassion is a gift. The Spirit of God speaks to our spirit, nudging us in the ribs to act.
To help us think more deeply about compassion, we have gathered together another Prayer Spaces at Home example and a reflection from St. Paul's Cathedral.
But first, we are delighted to share some thoughts on compassion from the Archbishop Stephen Cottrell, recently confirmed as the 98th Archbishop of York.
He agreed to be interviewed by some young people from the Archbishop of York Youth Trust.
What I'd like to know is, what does Jesus say about compassion in the Bible?
Well, actually, Jesus doesn't say a lot about compassion in the Bible. What Jesus does is show us what compassion looks like through his own actions of compassion, but also through the stories he tells. I guess perhaps the most famous example is the well-known story of the prodigal son, where when the prodigal son returns, the father had compassion on him. So even though that younger son had really let himself down, let his dad down, the father runs out to meet him.
What I'd like to know is, what does compassion mean to you?
I think compassion means to me getting inside somebody else's shoes. Trying to see and understand the world from their perspective, and that way you can be of the most help and service to them.
And my question is, given all the turmoil in the world, what are you hoping for right now?
I think what I'm hoping for more than anything is that when we get through this coronavirus pandemic, we won't go back to normal. I don't want to hear those words, let's get back to normal. Because the truth is, what we thought of as normal, was killing the planet. And although I cry out for the terrible suffering we see in our world today, actually this does give us an opportunity to think much more carefully and intentionally about what sort of world we want to build and what sort of world we want to inhabit. And actually the whole planet has had a bit of a breather while our cars have been on the drive and the aeroplanes have been on the runway. And to go back to normal, I think would be a terrible disaster.
Have you ever felt that strong drive to help someone in need?
What happened next? Did you do something with that urge, or did you just hurry on past?
We don't mean to heap on the guilt. It is simply about beginning to notice our reactions to God and the world.
The way we act is noticed and copied by our children. So when we are moved by compassion and do something about it, they will learn to do that too.
You could open this conversation with them to find out how they feel about the world and what they would change.
Don't forget to be brave in being open about your own feelings about when you have felt compassion and when you have needed compassion from others.
And remember not to rattle off stock answers, but allow for questions to drive deeper thinking and conversation when nobody has the right answer.
What have you noticed in our community that God would want to change?
How do you feel when you see suffering or unhappiness in others?
What could we do in response to the compassion we feel?
When you talk about compassion with your children, keep an eye out for the things you might learn.
Here are some more young voices to help us see the world from a different perspective.
I think compassion means caring for others.
Putting other people before yourself.
Not just thinking about your own problems, but others as well.
It's basically just another word for empathy. It's putting yourself in someone's shoes whenever you've had an accident.
I think what compassion means to me is to be able to help someone when they need help.
Compassion is about caring for each friend or family and you'd help them to struggling.
It means helping other people to show love.
The Bible is one of the best resources for talking about life of faith with our family.
The stories Jesus told have characters without too many details or backstory.
Which means that we can imagine ourselves being part of the story.
The obvious story when it comes to compassion is the story of the Good Samaritan. A traveler is attacked and left for dead.
But there is hope. A priest comes along, followed by a temple official,
both of whom saw the traveler and passed by on the other side.
The impact of the story comes if you know that the crowd around Jesus thought of the Samaritans as the enemy.
There would have been an audible gasp as Jesus introduced this character and turned him into the hero of the story.
But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was. And when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him.
Where do you feel you would be in this story?
Choosing to act when we feel compassion for something that's not right is how each of us can bring God's love into this world.
Parents and carers have this amazing opportunity to model what this looks like for children and family members.
Here are some more examples from parents about their experiences of using the Bible with their families.
One way our faith has grown during this period is by spending time together as a family and being thankful for all the good things God's given us, like thanking Him for all the beautiful nature we see around us when we're out on our bikes and scooters.
One way we've been talking about faith is through doing virtual Sunday school and lots of different crafts, including colouring in little cards with Bible verses. And then we've been able to send these to our friends.
I do feel that when we have the chat map here, it gives us something to really focus on, discussion that we can have amongst ourselves.
I usually read the story to my family and I like listening to their opinions.
I'm interested in the children's opinions. I quite enjoy giving my own as well, and I feel that everybody gets something out of it, even if it is just a bit of relaxation and doing the colouring.
I'm normally the one who colours in. I find it quite relaxing as people are talking.
I like guessing the story before my brothers read it, colouring it in and doing the puzzles.
What might all of this inspire you to do?
How can you help your household pause long enough to notice what God would feel is not quite right in your community?
Through prayer or quiet reflection, a song or an image, you might get a sense of what God is calling you to do.
We need our younger generations to share what they see as possible. So together, young and old, we can find new ways and new hope for our communities.
For this activity, you'll need pieces of paper or card, some felt tip pens and some string or blue tack too. Compassion Compassion is the feeling you have when you see someone in need and you want to help them. Sometimes compassion makes you feel sad for someone, and sometimes it makes you feel angry, especially when you see something you know isn't right and someone else needs help. Who needs help at the moment? Who do you feel sad for? What do you feel angry about because it's not right? It might be someone you know or something you know about from the media, like poverty or racism or animal cruelty. Cut a large heart shape out of your paper or card and decorate the edges. In the middle, write a short letter to God about the things that you feel sad or angry about. In the Bible, it says that Jesus saw crowds of people who had come to listen to him and felt compassion for them because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Matthew chapter 9 verse 36. Archbishop Desmond Tutu said compassion is not just feeling with someone, but seeking to change the situation. If you are going to be compassionate, be prepared for action.
Regan O'Callaghan is an artist and priest who creates icons to help others reflect about God and the world.
Originally from New Zealand, he was commissioned to create an icon for St. Paul's Cathedral.
We end this week with a short film showing the icon of St. Paul and what it means to 10-year-old Maya.
May you know God's love.
And may that love nudge you in the ribs to see the world through God's eyes.
May you in turn show God's love by responding to that call to act with compassion.
And may you find a way of being God's hands together with your household as you continue to discover faith at home.
The artist has put many signs of God's compassion into this icon of St. Paul. If I look at the right hand, I can see that it's raised in blessing towards me. If I look at the left hand, I can see that it's holding a Bible, and on top of that, St. Paul's Cathedral. The Bible is red, signifying the love of God and the blood his only Son shed to take away our sin. On St. Paul's shoulder sits an extinct huia bird. One trait this bird had that I like is a very strong bond with its mate. Overhead is a green banner. Green represents renewal, peace, and justice. On the banner is the life cycle of a plant. A bud, some leaves, and some flowers. Perhaps this is indicating the life of our Saviour. I wonder whether you can find any other symbols of God's everlasting compassion in this icon.